People tend to have very different tastes when it comes to wallpaper, even sometimes here at Rasch. It's up to the bosses to decide what comes and what goes.
It's important to me that it stands out from the Out of Africa collection.
The roles here are clearly defined. Dario Rasch is responsible for sales. His cousin Frederick is the design expert. The wallpaper business is a bit like the fashion industry. You have to follow the trends.
Here the stones are rose-colored. That's wonderful.
This wallpaper costs over 100 euros a meter. Russian customers love extravagant styles.
In Western Europe, everyone buys wallpaper. That's not such a bad thing. But you can find wallpaper in all kinds of houses. In Eastern Europe, it's something for the middle and upper classes. And so it tends to carry much greater significance.
Our studio might identify a fashion trend that has to be represented in some way in our collection. It might not turn out to be an economic success, but nevertheless, the opportunities to discover new trends and be one step ahead of the market keep on presenting themselves. It is possible to be the first to introduce a certain trend into a collection.
The Rasches have just invested 9 million euros in expanding their production capacity. This wallpaper is also destined for Russia, the company's most profitable foreign market. These high-tech machines are almost completely automated. But what about the global crisis? Are people really prepared to splash out on new wallpaper in times like these?
Whenever people are facing hard times, they think about their homes. Having a nice home becomes more important. People want to cocoon themselves. Wallpaper becomes important. We're convinced that our product will prove crisis resistant and that good times are possible during the crisis.
Rasch produces 30 million rolls of wallpaper a year. This wallpaper factory, built in 1905, was destroyed in a fire, but the family rebuilt. The Rasches have very strong ties to the town of Bramsche in northern Germany. Frederick Rasch is now in his early 30s. He realized when he was quite young that it would be difficult to resist the pull of the family business. The Rasch family has been in the wallpaper trade for 5 generations. The firm's old base of operations is now a guest house. This used to be both home and workplace in one.
This is a particularly lovely wallpaper that's been here since the house was built. It's made out of linseed oil and ground chalk and cork dust that was then embossed. It's an early imitation of a leather wallpaper. It's a wonderful product that's as old as the house itself.
The family's portraits hang in the stairway. The company's founder. Then Emil Rasch, Frederick's grandfather, on the right next to the German president. He worked together with the Bauhaus to develop a plain wallpaper, as simple and functional as the Bauhaus philosophy. The Bauhaus wallpaper was intended for social housing. It was a big hit around 1930. The Rasches have been passing the family business down the male line for over a century. There are clear rules that define when the older generation has to step aside for the newcomers.
Our partners, or rather our managing directors, are obliged to step down at the age of 65. That means that there's not usually a struggle to retain power.
But what about the relationship between the 2 co-managing editors? The 2 men say it's like a marriage, except divorce is out of the question. That has its advantages.
A family can get by with reduced profits for a couple of years. It can live off its savings, so that the survival of the business is ensured. I also believe that in families, people tend not to think of themselves first and foremost, but put common interests first instead.
Their foremost goal now is to ride out the economic crisis. The firm has already survived 2 world wars, so there is good reason to remain optimistic.